The state of the city is good. I don't think by any measure you could find a city that's in better health. We're fortunate to be in an affluent area and an area that the county left in good shape. But we all knew that in 2012 when we took it over, I think the phrase we used was, we're at the tipping point. The city, the community needed some attention. But before we talk about, and I always enjoy these annual updates to be able to show you our progress and talk to you about what's coming up next. But before we do that, I'd like to pose that question. What if there was no city? Think about it for just a second. Just kind of visualize, because we have, actually with 4 years of history, we have a little bit of time to reflect, because that would be across from the Forum. That's called, a garden apartment. The design hasn't changed since the 1970s, and that's what Lennar was going to build across there. Instead, you're going to see that. That's our town center. And if the city hadn't intervened, that's what Simpsonwood would look like. Now, I admit that's a bit of an exaggeration. When you Google and look for pictures of things, that's clear cutting, and maybe they would have left a few trees. But instead, thanks to the county, we're going to have that, our own park. And those are two big things that in our first couple of years, especially the town center, which happened I think we were 6 months old at that time, 7 months old, were dramatic reminders of just how important having a city is. Because it's not just the things that give us those big decisions. What about the before and after pictures of our public works maintenance guys? In other words, take a look at that. Doesn't it look better? And this is Jaybird Alley. They cleaned up the right-of-way and the fence line. Doesn't it look better? Look at that storm drain there. Those are the little things that add to the appearance of the community. The Winners Chapel sidewalks, that's something that, when would you have seen those sidewalks, with that touch? And those people feel very special now because of that attention. Technology Parkway, not so very far from here, you see an improvement in the sidewalks that's dramatic. I mean, that was one of those touches that we put in, that as we start to put the incubator in and to try to attract attention in that area to do the innovation of Tech Park, that makes a big difference. Paving streets with the SPLOST funds, and more importantly, daily trash pickup. You don't see that on the left near as much as you used to, because the city's there picking it up every day. Because we have a city, we have a different perspective. I would argue that in this community, people now have a sense that things are possible right here in our city. With all due respect to the county, we don't have to go ask Lynette to negotiate with her commissioner colleagues and talk about, hey, can we be next in line? We can do it ourselves. There's a difference when you have your city. We do control our own destiny, and as important as anything, we share a vision. We share a vision of where we're going. This is our vision statement. I dare say no one has seen this other than the council, who did it back a couple of years ago. But let's kind of review it together. Our community vision is to advance Peachtree Corners, offering a high quality of life for our residents, providing a competitive environment for businesses, creating a strong sense of community, accommodating the best opportunities to live, work, learn, play, and stay. Wow, who could argue with that? Can anybody in here visualize that? What's the next step? Okay, you got a vision statement, but what helps you translate a vision into reality? Because, this is one of my favorite quotes, vision without action is a daydream. Action without vision can be a nightmare. And that often happens unless you take the time to plan. And that's something that, since I'm talking to businessmen, you all know the benefit, because if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. I was a chief financial officer before I retired and did this, and believe me, I drove that home constantly. So one of the things that, and I'm fortunate with the council, we're all business people, and we all appreciate the importance of it. And that's what we've spent a lot of our first years doing, planning. The first one was probably the most important we did, the comprehensive land use plan. That's a 20-year view of what we want the community to look like. And we did it with a tremendous amount. We paid extra, for Pond 2, and we've got a pond guy in the room. Thank you very much for your service for us. But we paid extra to have more community outreach, more public input. The Livable Centers Initiative, we call it the LCI study. You'll hear me talk about that in a minute. The Holcomb Bridge Outer Peachtree Corners Corridor Study, Winters Chapel Corridor Study, Multi-Use Trail, Business Incubator Study. Look what the fruit that's going to bear. And the one we're doing right now, the Comprehensive Transportation Plan. I want to encourage there's a survey out there around. Please take the survey. But there are a lot of stakeholders, citizens. We had our luncheon meeting tomorrow to kick that off. That's going to be very important because it's a bookend with the Comprehensive Land Use Plan that will give us a 20-year view of the transportation improvements we need for the future. However, we are not without challenges. Now, any community does, and we're fortunate that we have resources and assets. But think of Peachtree Corners the way it is. Paul Duke formed it. I think Peachtree Corners Incorporated was 1968. Probably started building buildings in the 70s, primarily the 80s. A little bit of age on them. When we first started in 2012, Tech Park was suffering with high vacancy rates. I mean, it was somewhere in the mid-20s, and compared to Gwinnett County, which was the teens, and Atlanta, which was the lower teens, we're like a third world country, right here in River City. So we asked an economic development consulting firm, Pendleton Associates, a couple of those guys on the back row back there. Thank you for your service, gentlemen. We asked them, please find out for us what the problem was. And they said it wasn't hard to determine. After meeting with people who had either left the city or looked at us and didn't want to stay. They said, you don't have any millennial housing, and your office is getting kind of old. So we knew that first one, that's true. Our commercial, retail, and residential culture, based on trends that are outdated, 1- and 2-story office buildings, woodsy environment, those woods are important. We don't want to lose those trees. Retail customers have to drive from store to store. Large home and large lots, they don't make R100 lots anymore. Those are very expensive. Shortage of sidewalks, children move away. Neighboring cities are competitive. That's something that I'll return to and we'll talk about here in a minute. As I like to say, you don't think Alpharetta built Avalon for their existing residents, do you? So we are in a competition. As business people, you intuitively understand competition. We cooperate with our neighboring cities. There are many examples of it. But there's a competition for businesses and residents. Businesses want to locate where the workforce is. It's one of the first things we learned. If we didn't put some millennial housing in Tech Park, we would not stem the exodus of people leaving. And then the workforce and empty nesters like to be in areas that are walkable. They're more densely residential and convenient for daily activities. Overcoming those obstacles, we want to create as priorities for ourselves as we move forward on our action plans. Because each one of those plans I showed you a minute ago has a work plan with steps, action steps, which is what we're doing now as we go throughout the city. Walkable, we want to make our city walkable. Connect housing to workshops and other amenities. A multi-use trail system, both millennial and empty nester housing. We did a study that showed us that we had a lot of apartments, a lot of single family, no millennial housing. That's really workforce housing for people who want to work in the high-tech companies in Tech Park. And then residential, that's for empty nesters. I can't tell you the number of times when I go to restaurants, people stop me and say, I am tired of living in my 4,000 or 5,000 square foot home in pick subdivision, Revington, Amberfield, Peachtree Station. Could you get some builder to build 2,000, 2,500 square foot just for the wife and I? And that is the trend. You can see it everywhere. Creating places for people to gather, the town center, the town green, so that you can create memories for the community as a whole, and things and activities to create and attract business. Before you talk about overcoming challenges, let's take a minute before I do the update, and let's talk about who and what we are, because I constantly meet with people. Debbie can tell you that since I've been retired, I'm about as busy because I try to meet with people and talk to them. And there is a misconception that we are a bedroom community. We are not, most certainly not. Look at those statistics. 2015 population, 40,978. The jobs, almost the same, 40,864. And in 2012, when we were formed, it was roughly 38,000 population and roughly 36,000 jobs. It's been a huge increase. So we are not a bedroom community. We're a major regional job hub. Now, just for curiosity, I had Diana Wheeler, our community development director, show me how do we compare with our neighboring cities, because the whole idea of neighboring cities is important. Now, I know you can't read that, or if you can, that's good, but I'm going to read it to you. On the far left, closest to me, that's the city of Peachtree Corners. If the numerator is jobs and denominator is citizens, then it's going to be, like we are. See, we're a little less than 100 or 100% because we were almost 1 for 1. Everybody kind of see how that would work. So we are not a bedroom community. Look at the next one. That's Berkeley Lake. That's a bedroom community. They don't have a lot of jobs, and they have more residents. Look at Sandy Springs. That's next. Well, with Mercedes just moving there, it's a very dense urban area. Of course, they're going to have more jobs than citizens. They're closer into the city of Atlanta. Roswell has the profile. That's what, roughly 50%? That's really more of a bedroom community. Take a look at Norcross. Who'd have thunk that, right? That's because they have about 15,000 citizens, and they have a lot of jobs. They have some very skillful annexations. They've done a great job for themselves. Johns Creek, that's a bedroom community. That's 20%. That means just about everybody there has to go somewhere else to work. A lot of them come down here. I mean, if you think about it, if you go back to our statistics of 40,000 jobs here, what percent of the people who live here actually work here? 10%. That's mostly people from Johns Creek and surrounding cities coming over here to work. And where are those jobs? Primarily in Tech Park and in around that area. Look at Dunwoody. That's actually, we're more of a job hub than Dunwoody. Look at Duluth, the next one, Doraville, doesn't surprise me. They have a big commercial hub there. Here's the point I was trying to get to. Look at the city of Atlanta. We're almost exactly what Atlanta is. And everybody thinks of Atlanta as a major job center. It is. A lot of people live there. That's the profile, almost 1 for 1. That's exactly what we are. So when it comes to competition with other cities, it's just like your business. You have to evolve or die. I don't think I've ever heard a more eloquent explanation of that than Phil Sod gave to a town hall meeting one time when he patiently, in his voice, and he did a great job of it, explained that if you don't change, if you don't adapt, if you don't recognize what your citizens want and keep trying to improve the amenities and what your citizens have in terms of infrastructure and redevelopment, which is what the big issue is there in Post 1, you will be bypassed, and citizens will continue to move out to other neighborhoods. So that may be a bit dramatic, but it's certainly true. This morning I'd like to focus and give you updates on Town Center, the Innovation Hub in Tech Park, the Holcomb Bridge Outer Peachtree Corner Circle area, transportation, talk about that a bit, and then preserving green space, which are some of our key areas. Now that's a map that some of you might have seen, actually to kind of give you the orientation. Look at that big pink spot at the top there. That's Town Center. On the left side of that, that's going to be the Forum. The right side of that, that's going to be the Town Center. And that, as you can see from it's a Town Center hub at the north end. This map came from our LCI study, Livable Centers Initiative, and this is along the Highway 141 corridor, which is probably the most important transportation corridor from 285 to 400. It's like 45,000 cars per day move through that corridor. And then at the far end, you see the Holcomb Bridge, the other pink, the nexus there for that town center. In the middle is the Innovation Hub. So we're going to talk about those. This is the town center. Now, just to orient you, I think you can all see at the bottom, that's the Forum. You can see the restaurants, the Alexander's, you can see the Quick Trip. Everybody kind of orient themselves. Now, the closing date, and here, knock on wood for luck, October 3rd is the current closing date, and I hope I did not jinx it, everyone, by saying that, but Diana tells me everything is on track, and we're excited about that. That's what it'll look like. You'll notice the architecture is a modernized version of the French Provincial that's across the street at the Forum, so it should look like it was all built together. That's the look you're going to see as we get into it. Now, I can't leave that up very long. That's the Town Center retail plan. That shows who's signed. I know I see Diana smiling back there. That's who's signed up now, and that's who they're looking at, that they're working on letters of intent with. I think the one that's not shown on there is Marlowe's Tavern. They have signed up. There's a number of other ones that I know they're working on that they haven't signed up with. So lest I get in trouble, because if sure as the world somebody will say, oh, I really like that. The mayor said it's going to be there. We probably shouldn't look at it. But if you want to talk about it afterwards, I have a tough time keeping secrets, as most of you know. The town green plans are underway, and this is going to be one of the most exciting areas that we're building. It's roughly 2 acres, 2.2 acres, and it's going to have a lot of amenities that everybody's going to enjoy. I want to take a minute, a point of privilege here, and point out the Veterans Monument, the location, and the design. Do you see where it is over there in the corner? It's got a very prominent space. This is going to be what it's going to look like with those renderings of our servicemen. And I'd like to challenge you, to ask you, to please make a donation. Ron Shook, raise your hand. Ron has taken on the challenge of being the fundraiser for the Veterans Memorial, and I personally appreciate it. And if you served in the armed services, thank you for your service, but buy a brick. If your father, an uncle, served, buy a brick and support that, or just from the kindness of your heart, support the Veterans Memorial as we move forward with that. Editorial over. We also have plans on the other side as you see how that comes around. See the town green, see how it loops back around to an area that we call the Botanical Gardens. And I think it's an important step there in the middle of all that concrete to preserve as many trees, plants as we can, and it leads up, as you can see, that's where the multi-use trail will come down Medlock Bridge, and I'll show you that a little bit better on another map. Come behind the town green through the Botanical Gardens and cross over 141 on the pedestrian bridge. Speaking of the pedestrian bridge, I don't know how many times, everybody knows what's going on with the pedestrian bridge, and I don't want to belabor the point. Let's just say that our main concern is safety. When you've got 45,000 cars a day and a 50-second time limit to get across, that's not going to be easy. We know there are going to be tons of events. The president of Peachtree Corners Festival said he'd like to bring it up there. That's 10,000 to 15,000 souls. It will be a challenge to be able to do that without keeping people safe, and that's our primary opportunity. The connectivity of the multi-use trails and between the sides of towns. I've heard so many people comment, you know, I can't wait to start riding my bike or walking from Tech Park up to the town center and walking over to the Y and things like this, and also for economic growth. So for those reasons, we're encouraging that. Okay, we've covered the first one. That's the town center. Now let's talk about what I consider to be honest with you, the single most important thing we're doing right now, and that's the Innovation Hub in Tech Park. Now, everybody's heard of Research Triangle up in Raleigh. It's very famous, you know, Research Triangle's got a lot of, it's a high-tech hub. Tech Park here in Peachtree Corners served that same purpose back in the 80s, 70s and 80s. It really did. If you talk to Wayne Hodges, who's back there on the back row, who was a retired provost from Georgia Tech, and he was one of the founders and the first director of ATDC, that's Georgia Tech's incubator, he will tell you, he was a contemporary of Paul Dukes, and he said this was the area that was the hotbed of high tech. Now, what is it today? It's a suburban office park. It's a bit dated, so it needs renovation. It needs for us to recreate it in a way that it deserves to be for our future. So the things that have been recommended for to infill housing, in other words, put people living in there. If you're going to make something thrive, look at any downtown. They don't work unless people live there. So infill housing, put workforce housing near where the jobs are going to be. Infill recreation. In other words, take advantage of the fact, and who knew there were 2 lakes in the middle of Tech Park? Show of hands. How many people knew there were 2 lakes in the middle of Tech Park? You guys are better than me. I didn't know. Okay, and that's what I do now, and it will be a terrific thing. Then the business incubator, which I'll talk about in a minute, which is a tremendous opportunity for us. Here's the Twin Lakes project. The council, and I'm very proud of them, approved the Twin Lakes project, adding millennial housing. That's an apartment by any other name in the recreation to Tech Park. Now, just so you know, let me kind of orient you. I don't have a little pointer, but you see the road that's right behind what says Parcel A? That's Reps Miller Road. It's not too far from where the new, if you've been down PIB and you've seen where the construction's going for the new high school over there, Reps Miller Road is the Norcross City line. If you drive back in there, some townhomes on the left, if you look to the right, there's some of the oldest buildings that Paul Duke built. They're 1-stories, they have blue tarps on the roof, no one's in them, and what the developer proposed was repurposing those buildings. So they tore them down, and they're going to rebuild an apartment complex, a very high-end apartment complex, and it will be on the banks of those 2 lakes there, as you can see. Now, as part of this whole initiative, the council, and I will give Dinah Wheeler credit for it, we created what we called a T&O ordinance, Trails and Open Space, whereby if you wanted to get extra density for your project, you could buy and donate land to the city for our trails and open space. They donated, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 acres, valued at roughly $4 million. And some of it's on the other side of the road, Engineering Drive side, about 4 acres over there. And then it's all around where you see those lakes. And what that does is that gives the city the opportunity to create public space there. So there will be public access to the lakes. There'll be a walking trail all the way around the lake. As you can see the line going straight through that diagonal, that's the Colonial Pipeline. And they're glad for you to use their easement, you know, to make a walking trail there. And as you can see, it goes up, intersects with Medlock Bridge. Thoughtfully, the county widened Medlock Bridge to be a walking trail. We'll have to go through City of Norcross. They're glad for us to do it, to connect up there, then follow Medlock Bridge down to the town center. So that is our objective, is by the time town center's done, we'll have it connected, the walking trails all the way from 141 all the way up. That's what it looks like today. Corporate campus and Tech Park today. With the millennial housing, that's probably what it's going to look like, pretty close. Now the multi-use trails, and you notice I'm saying equals connectivity, because when you think about it, you see all those yellow lines? I know that's tough for you guys to see, but just stand back and look at it. That's the interior of Peachtree Corners around our commercial district on 141. We will essentially be creating a Peachtree Corners belt line. You'll be able to walk all the way around it. And I can tell you, businesses and our citizens are very excited about it. And as you can see, you know, with the little dark line that we're saying, the multi-use trails will cross Peachtree Parkway at the town center. This is the connectivity that you have, and everybody probably can recognize where that is on Technology Parkway, just up from the Marriott. I'm sorry, did I say, I know I'm in the Hilton, and I'm sorry to say that. But with connectivity underneath the Colonial Pipeline there, that's what it'll look like. And so we have 2 of those things done. Millennial housing has been approved. We have a multi-use trail plan, and the incubator is underway. Now, the purpose of the incubator, and let me just kind of give you the 20,000-foot view real quick. If you're talking about doing economic development for a city, you can, you know, you can try to recruit other businesses to leave their city and come to you. That requires incentives. You can have people, you can build a park, you can pave a street, you can inject dollars into the economy. That's economic development from a city's point of view. The single highest return activity you can do for a city for economic development is to build an incubator. It's hands down the studies we've seen. And so it's not just that. If you think about people that, you know, if you've got your office space in Tech Park, it's a little old, well, startups don't much care what that space looks like. So they're good candidates to take office space in an area that doesn't exactly have, you know, Class A office space anymore. If it is Class A, it's kind of older Class A. But most important, a well-managed incubator. I mean, everybody's heard 9 out of 10, if there are people in here who've started up a business, your heads will probably start nodding. 9 out of 10 businesses fail. 9 out of 10, everybody's heard this, you know, heard it on Forbes, and you hear it on, you know, Bloomberg and things like this. In a well-managed incubator, 8 out of 10 startups succeed. More importantly, 80+% of those startups that are incubated in an area stay in an area. And that's what we really want to do, is to focus on retention and support for launching. It's currently underway at 147 Technology Parkway. It's the first floor of City Hall. Got a great rate on the lease. to start with. It's scheduled, I think it's 4 weeks and counting today, right, Brandon? And so sometime in August it'll be done. The kickoff will be in September. And it will accommodate 50 plus startups. It just depends upon the configuration. I won't go into the details. If I brought Sanjay up, neither one of us, that's his favorite subject, so neither one of us would get done talking this morning. But one of the most important things about it is we're going to have a makerspace. When we did it, Sanjay was a great guide in a tour along our journey. A makerspace. Anybody heard of that term? That is a new trend in manufacturing. It's the idea of something we've lost in this country, and that is manufacturing, making things, creating a tangible product. We toured 10 incubators in the city of Atlanta. Only one had a makerspace, which we're calling our design lab. That's what ours is going to be called. And it was Georgia Tech's ATDC. None of the rest of them did. But we will, since we're a public incubator, you know, it's public tax dollars, we're going, and that's stuff like 3D printers, laser cutters, those things that someone can come in and say, I have an idea and I need to build a prototype. I want to see what it looks like. We will help you with that in our incubator. The name of it is Prototype Prime, and I stole that slide from a presentation Sanjay did so you can see the colors they'll have. And to make a point, it's to help entrepreneurs build and launch scalable technology startups. It's not for, I have an idea, I want to start an accounting firm or a law firm. Well, that's not really scalable. That's you just keep hiring more lawyers and accountants, and you build revenue that way. This is an idea, a business that can be scaled by adding technology. That's what we're trying to benefit here, because that's what's best for, that's the history of Peachtree Corners, and that's what works best for us, and the Gwinnett Chamber is very excited about that as well. We're partnering with Georgia Tech. That's something that we're very proud of. The Advanced Technology Development Center, they're the granddaddy of all incubators in the United States. They have a world reputation. They're going to be providing program content, some program management, training, about 3 training sessions per month. And they're going to be providing a 20-hour-a-week guide to be a mentor. As a matter of fact, we will probably be hiring mentors from the community once we get going. So, you know, that's something that we can hire from our own business professionals. So if you have an interest, stay tuned. That'll be something we'll talk about. And that's what we're doing. That's the update on the Innovation Hub. Holcomb Bridge, Outer Peachtree Corner Circle corridor. I think if you heard me, and I recognize most of the faces in this room, if you heard me during the Yes campaign, which was, you know, back in 11, you heard me say the words, this community is at the tipping point. Why do we need a city? Because we're at the tipping point. We need to make our own decisions. Well, everybody knew what I was talking about was Holcomb Bridge Road. Now, we did a study, and I'll go over that in just a minute, but look at the blue area and the green. If anybody ever asks you, how big is the city of Peachtree Corners? It's 10,520 acres. It's the biggest in Gwinnett County. Highest population, highest land mass. The Holcomb Bridge area is 1,100 acres. It's big, and there's a lot of population there because it's all packed into, generally speaking, apartments. Now, this is the roads, as you can see, the pink road there's Holcomb Bridge Road. They're bisecting it there is Outer Peachtree Corner Circle, and you can see how it connects Spalding on the top and Peachtree Parkway and PIB down below, okay? Now, you probably can't read these. If you can, I want to highlight a couple of points. These were the themes that came out of the study. We need to create a sense of place for the area. The strip centers and the retail areas need repair and recovery, redevelopment. Need more infill housing opportunities, not just apartments, but senior living, townhomes, rentals, condos, a mix of housing. You know, that's something that as you look at the way things change, I mean, people used to like to drive everywhere. Now, walkability, the ability to walk somewhere, is so much more important. In that same context, years ago, putting all the apartments in one location was considered to be the right zoning step, putting all the single family in one area, you know, and then your commercial all in one area. So you had to drive there. And those trends have changed, and the cities that meet their citizens' needs are the ones that are going to grow. So neighborhood centers for walkability, mixed-use elements. One of the things we're learning is you can't just have apartment after apartment. What you need to do is have mixed use or retail where people can shop within their own little areas there. And this is a good area for that. This is the most important one, creating an economic and regulatory toolkit. That's, well, there's a term, TADs, tax allocation districts, special mixed-use zoning, greenways and trails, special signage, landscaping. I'd like to invite you all to come to our next City Council meeting next Tuesday night, where Bleakley and Associates will present their proposals, their recommendations for redeveloping this area. And that's something that we're all looking very much forward to, because I think that will start us along the way toward redeveloping this area. They also recommended open spaces, greenways, trails, and then embrace transit. There's a very dense population, and they're heavier transit users than people over on the other sides of town that are more single-family car oriented. So that's something that they also recommended we take a look in. Let's talk about the gorilla in the room. As most of you know, I'm not shy about talking about these. But everybody knows, so let's not kid ourselves, that the violent crime, the only violent crime we have in the city, is in the apartments. And if you can't read that, I'll read it to you. Overall crime incidents, which are tracked by the police, are low in Peachtree Corners, averaging just 0.25 incidents per resident. That is low. Thank you, Gwinnett County Police. However, in the sample apartment complexes, the incidence of crime is almost 50% higher at 0.37. 3 complexes, Highland Corners, Valencia Park, and Silver Oaks, counted for the higher rate. Hint, if you look at the chart, those are 3 of the oldest. And then the remaining 11 complexes had more modest levels. I've looked at the chart. This comes from, by the way, the presentation that's going to be made next Tuesday night. And what it points out is apartments in and of themselves are not the problem. It's old apartments. It's apartments that aren't redeveloped. Now, the dilemma we have on that area is they're almost all rented out. People want to be in Peachtree Corners because there's a lot of jobs here. So the vacancy rates, I mean, are like very low. It wasn't like what Smyrna or Marietta faced when they had 40% occupancy in ancient apartments years back, and how they tried to redevelop them. So this is also an objective. It isn't just economic redevelopment, but it is also to address crime. And by the way, if you think people that live in those apartments are happy with that, you're kidding. The last company I worked for, I was CFO. My accounts receivable clerk lived right there in those apartments. I think she lived in one of them. Single mom, sweet little daughter, went to Peachtree Elementary, and she was terrified of some of the things that went on there. And of course, the city has a great relationship with Gwinnett County Police, and so we could be very responsive, but it's an old apartment. And when you have old apartments, you have lower rents, and you do have challenges like that. Now, one of the things I want to point out is when what I mentioned a minute ago was about walking trails and bike paths in that area. And that may sound to you like, yeah, Mike, I'm not sure that makes a lot of sense. And I have to say that it didn't strike me that way either. Dinah Wheeler gets regular requests for investor presentations. In other words, people call the city and say, we'd like to talk to you about what's going on in your city. Could you tell us? Now, the ones that she's found that have said, I'm interested in investing over in the Holcomb Bridge Road area, she's asked, what one thing could we do to encourage you to invest over there? To a person, they have said, oh, the walking trails, the bike paths, if you guys complete that, we think that's great. So does everybody recognize, so that has gone to the top of our scale as something important to look at. Does everybody recognize where that is? That's looking down out of Peachtree Corner Circle past Holcomb Bridge Road. It's got the big concrete in the middle. What if you moved that to the right and you put in a walking trail? You really don't need that concrete in the middle. You could improve that, and it's kind of in the world of redevelopment. Somebody's got to go first, and generally it's the city, or as Lynette can tell you, the county's got to go first, and that's the way you look at those things. Or Crooked Creek, and that's what Crooked Creek looks like right now, running parallel to Holcomb Bridge Road. But it could look this way as a multi-use trail. This is, and everybody knows where that's the Outback Shopping Center. I still call it the Outback because I'm old enough to remember when it was there. That's what it looks like now. That's what it could look like with proper incentives to get redevelopment in that area and the all-important Spalding-Holcomb Bridge nexus. What are the next steps there for us? Because that's something we're going to be launching here fairly soon. That first one is most important. We're going to be Tuesday night. We will get an opportunity to take a look at that proposal. From there, we've appointed a little committee, and that's Councilman Christ, Councilman Saad, and myself will be a little subcommittee to work with Diana on the proposals to go forward to take to the community to address the aging commercial sector in there. Then next, hopefully develop the multi-use trails along Peachtree Corner Circle, and then coordinate with surrounding cities. What that means is both Sandy Springs and Dunwoody have contacted us saying, hey, we saw in the newspaper that you guys are going to have multi-use trails. You know, we would really like to connect with you. We've heard it also from Norcross on the other side. Gwinnett County is excited about it. That's something that we want to be part of, and that's why these multi-use trails are so important. The next area that I want to talk to you about, improving transportation. I just want to cover a couple of topics here because this is something that we have learned the hard way. If there's anything that's slower than actions in a city, it is actions of the Georgia Department of Transportation. I hope they don't ever hear me say that about them because we'll be punished. But I think Greg Ramsey in the back of the room can tell you those folks move at a very deliberate pace. So we'll review our current projects, some problem intersection, then talk a little bit about the comprehensive transportation plan. Here are some projects that you can see here. Let me get them both up there. I know you probably can't read that, but let me just kind of go over them with you, the highlights there. The first one, Winters Chapel sidewalks, construction completed in 16. If you go down, there's the Technology Parkway sidewalks, probably 1, 2, 3. The fourth one down, State Road 141 at Peachtree Industrial Boulevard, construction coming summer of 16. Well, it's the summer of 16. Do you know what that one is? That's the one we picked to start with when we became a city back in 12. Now, we weren't eligible for SPLOST until 13 or 14, but that's the widening of Peachtree Parkway to 2 lanes as it goes up onto PIB. Out of the gate, we said that can improve traffic more than anything else. So when we said we'll do it and we'll put our money on it, both Gwinnett County, God bless them, and GDOT said, wow, if you guys will put your money in it, we will too, and you achieve that trifecta of everybody in agreement on a single project. So that's when we'll do that, and I think the bids roulette will be open August 3rd, something I see is August 4th. Okay, so we will soon find out and get started on those. The Winters traffic study, a roundabout. We had some Georgia Tech interns doing a project for us, and they looked at traffic throughout the city, and they looked at that area where Peachtree Corner Circle dead ends into Medlock Bridge, and you know how hard it is to take a right there or a left there? They said, well, that'd be perfect area for a roundabout out of the, the mouths of babes. So we're having a study done to see what that would cost and how that would work. That would be a very efficient way to keep traffic moving, especially as we start getting a lot more traffic around the town center. Street resurfacing is ongoing. The Spalding Drive, Winters Chapel Road to north of River Exchange Parkway, that's a big deal with the county. And that one is currently in concept design. A number of other projects there that I won't go through. The second to last one, State Road 141 Carter study. We just got a grant from GDOT to do that. The city of Johns Creek, their citizens drive, as I said, they drive through our city to go wherever they, because they're a commuter city. Their mayor up there has been asking for years, let's work together on intersection improvement. Can we time the lights better? Can we speed things up so that my citizens don't get bottlenecked? I mean, widening that, he applauded, but he also asked us to help with that Carter study. That is if you think about it, all the way from the Forsyth County line, that's where his city ends, to the DeKalb County line, that's where our city lands. We're 2 very large cities. So if we do a Carter study, we're going to use the same consultant, and they started theirs already, but we'll finish up. That should improve flow along that corridor. And the last one, the comprehensive transportation plan, is something I'll talk about in a minute. That is the worst intersection in the city along 141. Does anybody know where it is? Recognize that? Well, you can see down at the bottom. That's Piedmont Bank, the CVS, the Forum, the slip ramp. That's the East Jones Bridge at Medallion. I can see the heads going up and down. Yeah, as everybody knows, that's a good one. The next one. That one is Spalding Drive. That is a left turn issue. If you think about it, east-west is always a problem for most cities. Coming down Spalding Drive at rush hour, either in the morning, the evening, turning left onto 141 or right tend to be big problems. Where's this one? Okay, everybody start to see that? C.J. Alexander's, there's the Quick Trip. That's Peachtree Corner Circle at 141. That's the third worst. And those three are on our radar to be addressed. And what it's going to take is going to be challenging, but we need to do some innovative solution, and those are the things that Greg Ramsey and our consultants are looking at. The Comprehensive Transportation Plan is designed to look at it. Just like the land use study, it's a 20-year planning document that identifies all the intersections, all the road widenings, sidewalks, bike facilities, trail, as best you can. But we can always react to emergencies. But it stands back and takes a look at the city in the context of what's going on around us. The county does these transportation studies. Certainly the state does, ARC does, and make sure that we're doing what we will. You know, one of the things that we learned as we were talking to GDOT about the bridge was they said you'll have to make, and one of the reasons it looks so big is because it is big, that GDOT said you'll have to make it wide enough so that you can accommodate 8 lanes of traffic. Only 2 out there right now on each side. It's got to be 4. Because they said in 50 years we expect to have 4 on each side going all the way up. So that's another thing that you don't build for today, you build for the next generation and the future of the city. So, but the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, a lot of public involvement. Our first meeting is, the kickoff is August 11th at City Hall, 6 to 8, and you are all invited to come. The last area I wanted to touch with you is preserving green space, and that is something that probably doesn't get enough recognition. I know you certainly don't hear as much about it, but we have a green committee. We're very proud of them, the hard work. Also, we have a very green council. Everybody's very supportive of those efforts. We were awarded the ARC's Green Communities certification this year. We were awarded Tree City USA designation. We held our first Arbor Day event, which was a real privilege over in Simpsonwood. We developed plans for the Botanical Garden, which is going to be a real preserve there on the town center. And last but not least, we assisted, in a small way, the county's efforts to preserve Simpsonwood. And that's something that, thank you, Lynette, for that. She, you know, since it's just us here, I'll tell you, if you want to thank one person for that, it's that lady sitting right there. No kidding. People give us a lot of credit. Look at who was carrying the water the whole time. So thank you very much. And Charlotte and the council, tell them we appreciate what they did too. But we know who was carrying it for Peachtree Corners because she's a longtime resident here. So there is our sign that says we're a tree city, along with the Gwinnett County and the Peachtree Corner sign. And there was the Arbor Day, you know, and those are important landmarks because, as you saw from the population, that kind of population growth, guys, it's unavoidable. We're going to urbanize. But one thing we like to say is we want to urbanize as thoughtfully as we can. Level 3 communications move from Midtown. Now, do you know who Level 3 communications are? Heads go. They carry 40% of the internet traffic for planet Earth. That's who they are. And they're headquartered out in Boulder or someplace. They had a big operation in Midtown. Everybody knows all the high-tech companies are in Midtown, right? They moved from Midtown to Research Drive, Peachtree Corners. They just didn't lease their building, they bought a building. And thanks to the Gwinnett Chamber for that, but I don't think they really had to do a lot of persuading. Because when I asked the general manager, welcome back home, you know, the tech park and yada yada, and I was pretty giddy at the ribbon cutting, and I said, why did you guys move? One word, trees. He said, our people work in cube farms all day, every day, long shifts. And when they go outside, they want some, just a little bit of relief. And what do they see? Midtown, traffic, concrete. There's trees, but it's very urban. He said, when we talk to our citizens, and a lot of these are millennials, because I toured it. It's a huge facility, a lot of young people. They would go as far as Peachtree Corners once they saw the environment. It's those kind of companies that we're talking about. And so for us, when we say preserving green space, we're not kidding. It's an important asset for this future. So this morning, and in conclusion, we've talked about the things that we've done. I'd like to believe that this statement is true. And cities are the greatest creations of humanity. Okay? I think a lot of people think of creations as things like the automobile or the computer. I'm not sure social media belongs in that list of achievements. Humor aside, I hadn't thought about cities being a great creation, because those other accomplishments are singular, and we applaud that. Sanjay Prak, he's a guy sitting in the room that an entrepreneur created something, and he's going to help our young entrepreneurs create things too. But when you think about an accomplishment like creating a city together, my goodness. That's the reason I started this presentation this morning with, what if there were no city? Because I wanted to make the point, this is what we've done in the 4 years together. And folks, if we keep working together, we'll make it even better going forward. So thank you for your attention this morning. I don't know if I have any time for, thank you. Thank you. I don't, do I have time for questions, or, just a time? I knew that was going to happen. I'm kind of a wordy guy. Anybody want to talk about anything? Even the
trails through the city. The county was so excited because when we mapped it out, all the sidewalks and the parks and the green trails that are going through the cities, very soon we'll be able to connect Dunwoody all the way to the Mall of Georgia.
Wow. Did everybody hear Lynette? That the county had mapped out all the trails through our city, and pretty soon we'll be able to connect all the way from Dunwoody to the Mall of Georgia. And that, believe me, that's important. You will find that those kinds of things are very important to our citizens. Thank you very much. So, going? Okay, thanks very much. I appreciate it.